Alright, before I begin this video, there are 3 things that I'd like to explain. The first is that this video wasn't really planned. I'm actually working on an Ever After High versus Descendants video, and why Ever After High is better than Descendants because of how it handles its plot, characters, and setting. So while rewatching Ever After High and Descendants, I decided that Descendants needed its own entire video because I just have so much to say about it. The second thing that I'd like to explain is I have never read the books for Ever After High or Descendants, and yes, in case you weren't aware, there are books for both series. And about the books, the reason why I have not read them and why I will not consider them for analysis in my videos is that I think details from the books don't exactly line up with what is presented in the films and television series, particularly for Descendants. For example, in Descendants 3, we know that Mal's father is Hades, but apparently in the book series, her father is a human. So yeah, details just don't match up. And the last thing that I would like to explain is what I'd like to call the Descendants cinematic universe. You know how Marvel has the MCU with its movies and TV series on Disney+? Yeah, well, this is the Descendants cinematic universe. I coined that term. Okay, so the cinematic universe is the 3 movies, the prequel series, which takes place before the first movie. That series is School of Secrets, and the Royal Wedding Special, which takes place after Descendants 3. So I consider that all to be the Descendants cinematic universe. That is what I watched. Alright, so that's all that I wanted to say before the video begins. School of Secrets is a short miniseries that takes place before the first Descendants movie. It depicts an unknown Ordon prep student who sets up hidden cameras in order to record the everyday conversations and activity of the student body. Even though we never see her face, we all know Mulan star Lonnie is the narrator, right? The girl in the beginning of every video? Let's not pretend she isn't. She's literally played by the same actress, and she wears the same clothes that we see during her first appearance in the movie. I'm not gonna pretend either. I don't like Lonnie. I don't hate her, but I'm just not a fan of her character. From the cringy moment in the first Descendants when she tore her dress in order to look cool.
I love it. You too. It's just... Now I'm cool. Like ice.
To the way she just invited herself along to the Isle of the Lost in the second movie. Yeah, I don't like her character. If it's true that the girl in School of Secrets is supposed to be Lonnie, it makes me like her even less. For one thing, she set up secret cameras in the school to record her classmates. Then she posts those videos online. It wouldn't be that bad if she was filming these videos for her own information and never shared them with other people. That still makes me uncomfortable knowing she has access to private conversations, but it's still better than posting them online for thousands of people to see. We don't know if she ever took down these videos or just kept them online. So either way, there's a lot of embarrassing moments filmed and preserved on the internet for all to see. And just to list a couple of these terrible moments, in episode 15, Pranks, Lonnie covers an entire table in superglue. So when a random Ordon student comes by, takes her stuff out of her bag, and puts it on the table, she discovers that everything is now stuck and she can't pull them off. This culminates in the random student getting her long hair stuck on the table, and then her hands. Other students have to help her cut her hair in order to free herself. And do you know what Lonnie had to say to this?
Goodness doesn't get any better than at word on prep.
Hey!
Go.
Hello?
Nice.
Hello? Oh no.
I kind of feel bad. I didn't mean for this to happen. Then again, I hear short hair is in this fall.
Coming through.
How unempathetic and insensitive can you be? Or how about in episode 17, Broken, when one of Lonnie's friends turns out to be the girl Doug took on a date. So the date didn't turn out well and she broke her arm. Doug tries to make it up to her and she rejects him.
Hey, so... Sorry again about last night. If you need anything, class notes, dry cleaning...
Give me your pen.
Okay. I'm guessing that's a no then.
Not everyone gets a happy ending, I guess.
You'll notice how in both episodes, the person in question who is being humiliated is already being laughed at or observed by a crowd of onlookers. They're already embarrassed at school. Why do you need to post these recordings online and embarrass them on the internet too? Supposedly, at the end of the series, she does feel guilty for what she's done, like pranking that girl and gluing her hair to the table, but I just can't take her seriously. I don't believe her. Unless I see her deleting those videos, I don't think that she should be forgiven so easily for violating her classmates' privacy and most likely exposing them to cyberbullying as well. Okay, one last thing I want to talk about, and it's not related to Lonnie. Doug is rewatching episode 17 on his phone. While the poor guy is probably feeling like the biggest jerk on the planet, Audrey arrives and tells him about how she's helping with the welcoming committee for the villain kids.
Oh, hi Audrey. I thought Prince Ben was going...
Ben has enough to worry about with the new kids arriving so soon.
Oh.
I told him I'd help him out with the welcoming committee.
That's nice of you. Okay, well...
Don't worry. I've already made a list of everything we need.
Oh.
Take this down.
Sure.
We need a limousine to bring them here. You know, something classy, but not extravagant. So, budget classy. I don't know what they enjoy for snacks. Someone suggested frogs and newts. I'm not one to judge, but... Ew!
No amphibians.
I know Ben wants their arrival to be a big deal, so let's make sure the marching band is there. And of course, someone will need to show them the grounds, the dorms, get their class schedules worked out, and make sure they don't burn the place down as soon as they arrive. You're good with that? Well, that's everything.
Oh.
Let me know when it's done. Now I just need to decide what I should be wearing when Ben asks me to the coronation ball.
So, remember how I said that School of Secrets is canon to the Descendants universe? So, everything that Audrey listed was featured in the movie. The VKs arrived at Oridon Prep in a limousine. There were snacks for them in the limo. There was a marching band to welcome them. And, of course, they got a tour of Oridon Prep. This is also going to be in defense of Audrey's character as well. Even though she sounds arrogant and overbearing in her own way, she was trying to be nice to the VKs. It seems like she left all of the actual work to Doug and the welcoming committee though, which is unfortunate. But they did use all of her ideas. And it's because of her that the VKs got to Oridon in a nice limo, and they got to try chocolate for the first time. Mal, J, even Carlos just narrowly avoided having to eat frogs and newts for snacks. And before I move on to Descendants 1, there's this completely random thing that I just need to talk about because I can't get it off of my mind. There's this guy in episode 14 who thinks that Beast can fight against Hercules.
Dude, King Beast, back when he was a beast, would have torn Hercules apart.
He's half god, dude.
Beast is all beast, man. One way to settle it.
Beast may be a beast, but he isn't a demigod. Hercules has literally fought against the Hydra, Cyclops, and the freaking Titans. The first Descendants movie begins with Ben, who is the 16-year-old son of Beast and Belle. Ben is going to be crowned King of the United States of Ordon. So right off the bat, that is problem number 1 that I have with Descendants. Ben is only 16 years old. Why is he being crowned king of the entire known world? And yeah, that's what the United States of Ordon is. It's the combined fairy tale lands of all of the Disney animated movies. The entire world. Why is Ben, a 16-year-old, going to be king of the entire world? That is a lot of responsibility. Just because for his parents, and for the parents of the other Ordon prep students, just because in their time it was normal for teenagers to shoulder the responsibility of being the rulers of their own kingdoms, or finding a partner to marry and rule their kingdom with, just because that was normal during their time doesn't mean that it should be normal in Ben's time. It's just crazy to me that a 16-year-old is already expected to be the king of the entire world. The movie tries to play off Ben being crowned king as a joke, but it falls flat.
How is it possible that you're going to be crowned king next month? You're just a baby.
He's turning 16, dear.
Hey, Pops. 16. It's far too young. 16. It's far too young.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
The second problem that I have with Descendants is with Ben's proclamation. So he wants the children of 4 of the most evil villains to transfer to Ordon Prep. So I understand 3 out of 4 of the villains. I get why Maleficent's daughter was chosen. Maleficent is literally the mistress of evil. She can turn into a dragon. She cursed a baby to die on her 16th birthday. I get why the son of Jafar was chosen. He's an evil sorcerer. He wanted to take over all of Agrabah. He had this attraction towards Jasmine. I get why the evil queen's daughter was chosen. She was a negligent ruler who ruled tyrannically over her subjects. She hired a huntsman to kill Snow White. She gave Snow White a poisoned apple that would make her sleep forever. But I don't really understand Cruella de Vil's son. Killing puppies for their fur is pretty bad, but not exactly on the level of 3 villains who either ruled, took over, or endangered entire kingdoms. The third problem that I have with Descendants is how it tries really hard to make you hate Audrey. I get it, Audrey is Sleeping Beauty's daughter. She is the opposite of Mal, who is Maleficent's daughter. But what did she really do wrong in this movie? Audrey is just one of many of the students at Ordon Prep who distrust the VKs because of their evil parents. Audrey is Ben's girlfriend, but clearly Ben is not interested whatsoever. Ben is certainly at fault in this regard because Ben is literally going to be crowned king of the entire world. I think breaking up with his girlfriend should be a comparatively less monumental task. If he wasn't interested in the relationship, he owes it to both himself and Audrey to break it off. Yet, the breakup that we got in the movie was not a respectable breakup between 2 parties, but a song and dance number in front of the entire school about how he loves another girl while his girlfriend is still in the crowd. I get that Ben was under Mal's love spell, but this was just a brutal way to break up with someone. And what's even more troubling is that it took 3 entire movies for Ben and Mal to even apologize to Audrey.
I have owed you an apology for a very long time now.
And so have I.
Boo! You stink!
Speaking of Ben and Mal, before I segue into their relationship and how, frankly, unhealthy it is, I want to briefly discuss the scene in which Mal, Jay, Evie, and Carlos are breaking into the Museum of Cultural History in order to steal the fairy godmother's wand. So I noticed that there is only one night guard in the entire museum on duty. Why is there only one night guard in the museum? In real life, there should be more than one night guard. In fact, according to this article I read, being a night guard at a museum is like being a sentry in the army. So, yeah, there should be more than one night guard on duty. What annoys me even more than this is that they did not fix this in the 3rd movie. There is still only one night guard on duty in the 3rd Descendants movie. You think with how they had an attempted break-in during this movie, I can't believe I need to say this, but in a museum of incredibly important cultural artifacts, many of which were owned by former villains, there should be more than just one guard guarding the museum. Alright, now that I've gotten that out of the way, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, otherwise known as Ben and Mal's relationship. Their relationship, if you can even call it that, begins when Mal literally drugs Ben. Yes, she drugs him with a love potion in a cookie. She does this so that she can become his girlfriend, and so she can steal the fairy godmother's wand at Ben's coronation. Is this what you want kids to do in a relationship, Disney? Drugging the other person so they'll be forced to love you? And even after knowing they were drugged, continuing to love the person who drugged them? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before that happens, Ben and Mal go on a date. And during that date, Mal sings about how she feels bad about drugging Ben. Wow. Fine, I can believe that. She's starting to be a better person. Fine, I say better, not good, because she is far from actually being a good person. But you cannot expect me to believe that she actually loves Ben. When was she supposed to like him? Before she drugged him, in which case she should have never drugged him at all? During his drugging, if that's the case, she knows he's drugged, she knows his feelings for her aren't real, so there's no way she can reciprocate any feelings when there's nothing to reciprocate? So, after Family Day at Oregon Prep, the VKs are ostracized again by the student body after they were starting to actually feel accepted. And then Mal decides to do the first good thing she's done probably the entire movie, and that's to give Ben an antidote to the love potion. But this is literally just fixing the problem that she created, so I wouldn't even say it's a good deed. And if she loves Ben after all of this, that's even more messed up, because she gave him a love potion and still expects him to like her? No, if she truly cared about him, she'd want him to be with someone who didn't drug him. And yet on the day of the coronation, when Ben gets the antidote, he reveals that he was in love with Mal all along, and the love potion wore off during their date. To that I have to say, no. Just no. So the antidote wore off during your date at the Enchanted Lake. Why do you still want to be with Mal then? This girl literally drugged you. It doesn't matter what you felt for her before she drugged you. I repeat, she used a love potion on you. That is enough to turn anyone off, except for Ben, apparently. Please, don't think with what's between your legs. Think with what's inside your head, Ben. And his reasoning is that Mal only gave him a love potion because she really liked him but thought she'd have no chance with him? Do you know how utterly narcissistic this comes off as, Ben? So that's it. That's Descendants. That's the relationship that we're meant to root for in this series. One that began with Mal drugging Ben, and with Ben being weirdly okay with that for some reason. Why is this the relationship that Disney wants to push towards its young audience? It's not like there aren't healthy relationships in Descendants. There's Jane and Carlos, there's Evie and Doug. And on the topic of Evie and Doug, when you compare it to something like Ben and Mal, Evie and Doug are just a healthier and happier couple. Did Evie or Doug ever drug the other with a love potion? No, they did not. Did Evie or Doug ever run away from their responsibilities, leaving the other to chase after them? No, they did not. And did Evie and Doug have a terrible wedding special about how they got married after literally just knowing each other for a year? No, they did not. Doug supports Evie in her dreams of being a fashion designer, and Evie loves Doug, even though he's not the prince that she initially thought she wanted her partner to be. What's more insulting is that before the final battle with Maleficent in this movie, Mal gives a speech about how she wants to be good, and how she wants to be good for Ben. Even though, before this, all we've seen from her in the movie is just her drugging Ben, and Ben accepting that for some reason, even though he logically should not. We are meant to believe in this relationship, even though it should not exist in the first place. If Ben were a better written character, he would not trust Mal after this. He would not trust Mal after she drugged him with a love potion. In fact, he would stay away from Mal, not be in a romantic relationship with her. What Mal needs isn't a boyfriend, what she needs is a therapist. In fact, all of the Ordon Prep students and the VKs would benefit from talking to a therapist about their problems. Is there not a single therapist in Ordon Prep, or even the entire United States of Ordon? Especially for the VKs who are coming from the Isle of the Lost, and with their backgrounds of having evil parents, does no one think that just having someone professional to talk to about these personal and psychological matters, does no one think that that wouldn't be helpful for them?
Let's give Auradon a taste of evil.
6 months pass in between Descendants 1 and Descendants 2. During that time, Mal, as King Ben's official girlfriend, has been getting a lot of attention. So she's been using her spellbook to basically cheat on being a princess. So Mal gets exposed by Ben after he discovers that she's been using magic and lying about it. I'm not going to defend Mal in this scenario, but he shouldn't be so surprised. He knew Mal used magic on him in the last movie and for other things like fixing girls' hair, right? and he never asked Mal to turn over her spell book. He didn't think that she would keep it, especially now when she has to act like a princess. Ben expected someone who's been locked up on a remote isle all of her life to suddenly adjust to being royalty. What's the next thing Mal does? Run away, of course. And when she's running away, she takes Maleficent with her. By the way, Maleficent in this movie is a green lizard, even though in the first movie she was purple. And in the Royal Wedding Special, she was also purple. It's just this movie that decided to make her green. I suspect, as the movies go on, it's not only the writing that gets worse. Even minor details like what colored Maleficent the lizard is can't be consistent. The remaining 3 VKs and Ben go to the Isle of the Lost to get Mal back. Mal, being the person she is, rejects Ben and decides to stay on the Isle. Tell me again why Mal should be the Queen of Auradon? Someone like her who runs away when things get too hard for her? Then again, it's not her fault Ben became king at age 16. That is something that I am not letting go, okay? His father and mother didn't marry and become the rulers of Auradon until they were 28. So why should Ben be king at 16? Ben gets captured by Uma and her pirate crew. Mal and the other VKs have to trade the fairy godmother's wand for Ben. Instead of doing that, they make a fake with Carlos's 3D printer. Their plan works for the most part, except for a sword fight. So, other than my theory that the writers only added sword fighting to Descendants 2 in order to make Lonnie's character more relevant, I think they were also capitalizing on the recent success of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Because, in case you forgot, Descendants 2 was released in 2017. That was the same year that the latest Pirates of the Caribbean movie, Dead Men Tell No Tales, was released. Everyone makes it back to Auradon Prep. Carlos finally confesses to Jane, and everyone is ready for the cotillion. Uma shows up with Ben under a love potion, using Mal's spellbook that she dropped when they were running away from the Isle. Is this a good moment in the video to say how Mal's purple hair does not go with her cotillion dress? She changes into a purple one later, but yeah, her first dress does not work with her purple hair. Maybe it's just my personal preference, but I do not think that Mal's purple hair goes with her yellow cotillion dress. It just does not work. Plus, doesn't Mal have to wear a lot of yellow and blue as the Queen of Auradon? Those are Auradon's colors. She looked fine with the dress when her hair was blonde, but if she wants to keep her hair the bright purple color, she just cannot wear yellow and blue. Anyway, back to the current situation. Mal breaks Ben's love spell with true love.
I love you. Ben, I've always loved you.
Disgusting!
It is only the second movie, and I'm already tired of the writers trying to shove down my throat that Mal and Ben are the perfect couple. I don't understand how they can just make Mal and Ben so terribly written and unhealthy, while on the other hand you have Evie and Doug. If I wanted a couple that represented true love, then I don't have to look any further than Evie and Doug, okay? They're a couple based on mutual respect for each other and communication, not the lies and distrust that are always present in Ben and Mal's relationship and that their relationship was built on. So Uma is mad that her plan failed, and she jumps into the ocean, turns into a giant octopus lady like her mom, and starts attacking the ship. Mal transforms into a dragon, which would have been useful against her mom in the last movie. Why exactly didn't she do that then? while Ben jumps into the water after roaring. This is just one of the gimmicks in the movies that I really cannot stand. Why do the writers need to constantly emphasize that Ben is the son of Beast? I get it, okay? Why do you need to show me that in every single movie? It makes sense in the first movie, after introducing him as a character for the first time, but it's really unnecessary after that. Honestly, the third movie is even worse, because in that movie, Audrey should have just turned Ben into a statue like she did to everyone else, instead of just making Ben into a pseudo-beast. Disney and the writers of Descendants are not going to make me forget how they ruined Beast's character just to make him a complete in the lore of Descendants. Anyway, so there's a very underwhelming final battle in the movie. After that, Uma swims away to avoid being captured, and we won't see her for another half a year until Descendants 3. So while I think that Descendants 2 still has its problems, it and the first movie are definitely better movies than Descendants 3. It's never explicitly stated how much time progresses between Descendants 2 and Descendants 3, but we can assume it's been half a year because Audrey is mentioned to be taking summer classes, so it's now summer. And a year has passed between the first movie and the third movie, since Mal is 17 now instead of 16. If the first movie began in early fall, because the weather still looked relatively warm, and the second movie took place in early spring, then it's now late summer. So, after everything that happens in the second movie, Mal, Jay, Evie, and Carlos go to the Isle of the Lost to pick 4 new VKs to attend Oridon Prep. They choose Dizzy, granddaughter of Lady Tremaine, Celia, the daughter of Dr. Facilier, and Squeaky and Squirmy, the twin sons of Mr. Smee. And Ben proposes to Mal. I thought getting crowned king at 16 was bad, but now you're getting married at 17? Have you ever looked at divorce statistics? Don't you know that 48% of those who marry before the age of 18 are likely to divorce within 10 years? Even if they don't divorce, it's not going to be a happy marriage. Disney wants to have its cake and eat it too. You cannot have both. Descendants is supposed to take place in a modern society comparable to ours. You have technology like cars, tablets, phones, computers. The characters act like modern-day teenagers. My point being, if Descendants is supposed to be a fictional modern-day society, why do they still have archaic customs and traditions like 16-year-olds being crowned king or 17-year-olds getting married? Audrey is there too when Ben proposes to Mal, and she's upset about it even though it's been a year. She did not look upset at the end of Descendants 1 when she was dancing with the VKs. But the writers somehow want me to believe that an entire year later she's still hung up about Ben. Okay, let's look at the stages of grief after someone experiences infidelity. So, the 5 stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally, acceptance. You're telling me Audrey went from acceptance all the way back to denial? What about that spa retreat she went on with the 3 good fairies, Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather? Does none of that mean anything? Then the writers make Audrey steal Maleficent's scepter from the Museum of Cultural History because this museum still needs better security. And while this is going on, after Mal, Jay, Evie, and Carlos visit the Isle to pick up the 4 new VKs to bring them to Oridon Prep, Hades tries to escape. So Mal decides the barrier needs to be closed permanently, no one gets in, and no one gets out. Mal and the other VKs, except for Dizzy, Squeaky, and Squirmy, go back to the Isle in order to steal Hades' Ember, which they can use to defeat Audrey. Because I guess the fairy godmother's wand isn't enough anymore. They need to introduce another magical MacGuffin in order to make Hades relevant to the plot. Hades catches them, of course, and he just so happens to be Mal's father. Now here's another dilemma for you. If Mal is half fairy from Maleficent's side, and half god from Hades' side, she's not human at all, right? So isn't she immortal? She shouldn't age? Ben and Mal already had a 48% chance of divorcing. If Mal's immortal, that jumps straight to 99.99%. What is the point of this, though? To give Mal freaking god powers? Even though she can already do magic and turn into a dragon because of her mom. Maleficent, who's already the mistress of all evil? Why make Mal Hades' daughter on top of that? The writers are trying way too hard to make Mal a special snowflake. I just wish they tried that hard when coming up with the storyline of their movies. Finally, we get the return of Uma, aka the best girl after Evie. And tagging along are her loyal crewmates Harry, Captain Hook's son, and Gil, Gaston's son. They take Hades' Ember from Mal and the others and agree to help Mal only in exchange for Mal releasing all the children from the Isle. Some other stuff happens I'm not going into detail about because I'm getting tired talking about the third movie. Jane is having a birthday party when Audrey puts everyone under a sleep spell. Jane escapes by jumping into the enchanted lake. Audrey starts turning people into stone. Evie wakes up Doug with True Love's kiss after singing a adorable song about her feelings for him. Okay, so Mal reveals that she lied to everyone about the barrier. She's not going to let anyone out after closing it permanently. So obviously everyone gets mad at her because we need some cliche drama right before the climax of the movie. And Celia throws Hades' Ember in a bird bath because of course it doesn't work in water. Why did it have to be Celia who threw the ember in the bird bath? What if it was another character like Dizzy? Plus, it's much more emotionally impactful for Dizzy because she looks up to characters like Mal and Evie. But no, Dizzy, Squeaky, and Squirmy were sleeping the entire movie. Going back to the plot of Descendants 3, after this whole ordeal, Mal has to go confront Audrey by herself because everyone else was turned to stone. And Uma has to come and save Mal from being defeated. Audrey is beaten, the day is saved, except, whoops, Audrey is dead. So Hades has to make another appearance in order to revive Audrey before being sent back to the Isle. And at the end of the day, Mal decides to remove the barrier around the Isle of the Lost entirely. Cue the last song and dance number before Mal, Jay, Carlos, and Evie run back to the Isle to visit their parents. Descendants 3 is still a bad movie, but as an ending to the trilogy, I think it was okay. Alright, time to end this video with a bang, or more like a whimper really, because now I'm going to review the completely unnecessary Royal Wedding animated special. So, I don't like Ben and Mal. I've made that pretty clear. For 3 movies, I've explicitly made it clear how I do not like their relationship whatsoever. And I don't like that they're getting married because they're 17-year-olds. So, obviously, I just don't like this animated special at all. Unless you are a die-hard Ben and Mal shipper, in which case, I pity you. You won't enjoy the wedding special. Why does it exist? I know Ben and Mal get married, and that's all I need to know. I don't need to waste my time on a half-hour special that overstays its welcome for far too long. So, there's no better way to say this. The art style is just ugly. If they were going for a style similar to old classic animated Disney films, they failed. I'm sorry, I know animation takes a long time and a lot of effort, but the final product is less than ideal. I don't blame the animators who worked on this film, but I do blame whoever decided to go with this ugly art style. I'll also mention that before the royal wedding, there were a few prequel shorts called The Planning of the Royal Wedding, and in those shorts, the art style there has the opposite problem. Whereas the royal wedding's art style is on the simpler side, in the planning of the royal wedding, the art style there is too realistic. But both have this slow, stilted, awkward animation that I absolutely detest. Why couldn't the animators just reuse the CGI art style from the Descendants spin-off series Wicked World? Another thing I noticed is that while the art style in general is bad, some characters look better in it than others. For example, the female characters look a lot better than the male characters. Just look at how they drew Hades and Jay. They really butchered Jay in this art style. Compare it to how he looks in Wicked World and then how he looks in Royal Wedding. So there's nothing to say about the plot. The conflict in the film is that everyone is afraid of Hades and thinks he's trying to ruin the wedding, when in actuality he isn't. You know, that's one thing I still don't understand either. Why is Hades trying to be a good dad? He left Mal and Maleficent when Mal was still a baby. Yeah, Maleficent isn't a problem now that she's a lizard, but why would Hades suddenly act fatherly to Mal? In Descendants 3, and in this film, maybe he feels bad for leaving all those years ago, but that still doesn't explain why exactly he's so attached to Mal. Especially in Descendants 3, when he just gave her his most powerful artifact with no complaints. Guilt is a powerful emotion, but that doesn't explain why Hades feels so attached to his kid that he hasn't seen in 17 years. They're practically strangers, much less father and daughter. And that's it for the royal wedding. Audrey has been regulated to the comedy relief wedding planner. Uma shows up in the movie too. That's it. It's all very boring. I will give credit where credit is due though. The one aspect of this film I respect is how it addressed Cameron Boyce's death, or rather Carlos's death in the Descendants universe. I like that Disney went in this direction instead of saying Carlos is traveling or off on a journey someplace far away. Now that Cameron Boyce is gone, it wouldn't be the same if another actor portrayed Carlos in any potential future Descendants installments. If you've made it to the end of the video, thank you. Thank you for watching, and thank you for sticking around to listen to my rants on Descendants. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and turn on notifications. That part is really important because I'm going to release an Ever After High video essay, so you want your notifications on to be notified of when that video is released. If you like fairy tale stuff and don't like Descendants, go watch Ever After High. It's a really good series and just handles stuff so much better than Descendants ever could. But if you're too attached to the Disney characters and the Disney villains, I recommend Patty Cake Productions on YouTube. They make really amazing fan-made musicals, and I adore their Villain's Lair series.